Welcome to Global Rhythms Live, World Music and Dance Digital Concert Series presented by Ensemble Topaz.
Hi everyone, it's with great joy that we welcome you to the 6th edition of Global Rhythms Live World Music and Dance Digital Concert, where we feature diverse performances by artists practicing different genres of world music, dance, and performance traditions from around the world. I'm Paromita, co-artistic director and choreographer of Ensemble Topaz, a Toronto-based integrated music and dance ensemble, and it's my great joy and honor, along with Mike Anklewicz, to present to you this week's edition of Global Rhythms. We would also like to take a moment to wish all of our friends and supporters who celebrate a peaceful and joyous Eid. Eid Mubarak on behalf of all of us at Ensemble Topaz. This week on Global Rhythms Live, we have artists with us from different cities of Toronto and Hamilton, both in our Ontario province in Canada. And these artists perform a variety of world music and dance traditions, including Mediterranean music, Middle Eastern dance, Kazakh music, and Kurdish dance. Joining me in the studio is Mike Anklewicz, musician, composer, and music director for Ensemble Topaz, as well as several other music projects, as well as faculty member of Royal Conservatory of Music in Toronto. He's also our managing technical director for Global Rhythms.
Thank you so much, Paromita, and thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. To us, in so many ways, this concert series keeps alive the tradition of performing live art forms, the ability to perform to an audience, which is so often a part of our everyday lives as performing artists. We started this journey to be able to continue to perform for our audiences and to also share a little bit about the artistic journeys of these incredible artists that we are honored to present. So please click the link or visit the GoFundMe page to support our artists. Any donation is wonderful, but we do recommend $5 to $25, whatever you can pay. Your support is what keeps our artists going at this time. Our first performer today is Professor Judith Cohen. Judith Cohen is a Montreal-born, Toronto-based ethnomusicologist, medievalist, singer, storyteller, instrumentalist, and inveterate traveler. She teaches part-time at York University and is the consultant editor for the Alan Lomax Spain collection. Judith did her master's in medieval studies and her doctorate in ethnomusicology at the Université de Montréal, known internationally for her research and publications on Judeo-Spanish or Ladino songs and on her music of the crypto-Jews of rural Portugal. She is an active performer of the music of her research and travels. Songs from the Balkans, Spain, Portugal, French Canada, songs in Yiddish, Ibizan Catalan, Middle-Even Occitanian, and Pan-European balladry make their way into performances, lectures, and storytelling. Her recent COVID-era online ventures include a lecture concert for a museum in southern Italy and singing to represent Tangiers for an online Mediterranean festival organized by a Spanish ferryboat company. Judith is also proud to be the mother of the popular Toronto-based singer and dancer Tamar Ilana. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Judith Cohen.
So as you said, I'm a scholar and I'm a singer. I don't really know what order that's in, alphabetical or otherwise, and they both start with S. I guess what I've done for many years now is try and put together both worlds. So put together the world of being a singer and a scholar and a traveler. And basically, I sing what I study and I study what I sing. And, you know, I grew up in the folk revival years in Montreal, so I always have that kind of, that kind of vibe in whatever I do, no matter how scholarly it is. So I've been trying to figure out ever since you first wrote to me and suggested that we do this. I've been thinking, okay, what should I sing? You know, and I keep thinking, this one, no, this one, no, that, no, the other thing. And I really don't know. So what I'm known for mostly, at least in the scholarly world, is my work with Sephardic music. And I always say it's not the Sephardic top 10. It's not the Sephardic songs that most people hear. I do a lot with the old ballads, the old narrative ballads that tell a story. They're called the romances. And a lot of times you have the same ballad, the same story, but not the same music in the Sephardic world in Morocco and the Sephardic world on the other side of the Mediterranean in the old Ottoman lands. So I thought I would do one of those ballads and maybe do a bit of both versions. And I was hesitating, as I often do in real life. Well, this is real life. Sorry, in presence real life concerts in the old normal. I asked the audience, would you rather have a song of faithful love or unfaithful love? So I was thinking of maybe asking you, since you're my immediate audience, do you want faithful love or unfaithful love?
Let's go with faithful love.
Wait a second, the woman is answering. That's so interesting. Mike, you let Paromita answer so politely without saying a thing. Right, faithful love. Okay, so let's see which one will faithful love. So the husband or the beloved or the fiancé goes away and he comes back. And he comes back, of course, 7 years later, which is the magic time. And she doesn't recognize him because she's been busy hanging around being faithful all this time in most of the versions. And so he comes back and he says, here I am, can I have a glass of water? Or can I have a glass of wine? Or a glass of something? And she says, where have you been? He says, I've been at the wars. Oh, have you seen my beloved? What does he look like? He's gorgeous. He's perfect. And she describes him. Oh, well, yes, I saw him. He was dying. And with his last breath, he said, I should marry you. Oh, no, 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 can't marry you. Can't marry anybody else. I'm going to wait for my beloved. Okay, I'm your beloved. So that's the main story. And it's got a lot of variations. And I first actually heard it in an Ottoman version that was collected by Israel Joe Katz, back in the 60s in Jerusalem, in Israel. And that one has a twist where he says, well, what would you give for your husband? And she says, well, I'd give my 3 vineyards, not good enough, my 3 houses, my 3 mills, my 3 this, that, not good enough, not good enough. I give my 3 daughters. Not good enough. I want your body. No, you can't have that. It's my husband's. Okay, I'm him. I'm he. Arboleras, arboleras, aman, aman. Arboleras tan gentil. Por ahí pasó un caballero, aman, aman, caballero, amadi, que buscas la mi señora, aman, aman, que buscas vos por aquí. And it goes on for quite a while. It's unaccompanied in the old traditional style because the Sephardic Jewish women, usually sang these long ballads while they were embroidering or doing other housework or preparing a meal or rocking the baby. They had their hands occupied, and so they would usually just sing it straight. But one of the other versions that I know is a Moroccan Sephardic Jewish version, which is based on an old Spanish version. And it lends itself, because it's a very Western kind of melody, even though it's from Morocco, it lends itself to my medieval vielle. So usually I do it on the vielle, and it goes like this. Escuché, señor soldado, si de las guerras venís, si las guerras, mi señora, de las guerras del inglés, si habéis visto a mi marido, por fortuna alguna vez, dame señas, mi señora, que le pueda conocer. Mi marido es blanco y rubio, alto es como un ciprés, y en la punta de la espada lleva las armas del rey. And it goes on, there's all kinds of variations. There's a version from Quebec in French, which is actually apparently based on a version from Belgium that is in the style of an old Quebec chanson à répondre, where you repeat, the audience or the rest of the group repeats the lines. I don't have a rest of the group here, but it would go like this. Germaine, belle Germaine, allons nous promener. Germaine, belle Germaine, allons nous promener. Dans mon chemin joli chevalier. Il me demande, Germaine, êtes-vous fille à marier? Qui est mariée? Ah non, je ne suis pas. J'ai mon mari absent, voilà ce soir 7 ans. Fidèle, je lui serai jusqu'au dernier moment. And it goes on, there's all kinds of versions. It's what we call a pan-European ballad. And I realized actually, quite far into studying this kind of thing, that it's the same ballad that people my generation grew up listening to on the very first Joan Baez record as in vinyl, the kind that goes around and around, where she sings, "There young maid all in the garden, strange young man passer by, saith, fair maid, will you marry me? This then, sir, was her reply. Oh no, kind sir, I cannot marry thee, for I've a love who sails along the sea. He's been gone for 7 years, still no man shall marry me." So that's the kind of combination of research and performing and traveling and so on that I like to do.
That's an amazing sort of confluence, and it's amazing how many different cultures and different countries have similar songs across that Mediterranean region and into Europe and even over to Canada. Do you see that a lot in your travels and in your studies?
Well, it's not so much that the songs are the same as that the themes are the same. So you get, archetypal themes like the husband's return, Penelope and Odysseus and all the rest of it. And then you get things that are very local, that are really songs about things that happen locally. So it's kind of hard to say. In the case of these ballads, and I have to specify always narrative ballads, because people are so used to thinking of ballads in the late 20th century popular English language world sense of kind of, popular love songs. But I'm talking about the old narrative ballads. And a lot of these really travel. And sometimes it's hard to say when they started. There's a couple in Spain that go back to the 1001 Nights or earlier. And there are others that are rooted in medieval Spain. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm also a medievalist. So a lot of what I say is based on medieval studies too. So it depends. Some of them, yes, and some of them not so much.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about the medieval vielle that you were playing? Because it's, such an interesting sound and a different way of accompanying yourself than a lot of musicians have.
Right. Well, this actually, again, comes from all my years playing medieval music. I had a women's group in Montreal. In fact, I kind of do things backwards. I started Sephardic music because I went traveling to Spain and Morocco and Turkey and the Balkans and so on, back starting in the early 70s. And I learned about Sephardic music by sheer coincidence from a Spanish Galician bagpiper in 1973, when it was still Franco and all kinds of things were happening, and went back to it having all these musical traditions more or less familiar already. And the same thing with medieval music. I kind of went into it a little bit backwards. I heard a recording, I think it was in a medieval garden in someone's house in what we used to call the McGill Student Ghetto in Mile End, right near where Leonard Cohen used to live, back in late 60s, early 70s. And then we formed this medieval women's ensemble, and people started saying, did women perform music in the Middle Ages? And so I went and wrote a master's thesis to find that out, and learned all about women in medieval music in medieval Spain among the Jews and the Muslims and the Christians, and it was totally fascinating. So when I finally got into Sephardic music, I had this medieval background to say what wasn't medieval about Sephardic music. But anyway, yes, this is a copy of, I think, a 15th century, an early 15th century vielle à archet, bowed vielle, as opposed to a vielle à roue, a wheel fiddle, hurdy-gurdy.
Great. So we'd love to hear you sing another song or suite of songs. So please share something else with us.
Well, let's think. Well, I talked about medieval music. I've spent a lot of time in Portugal. Uh, what I've done is, as I said, what I work on, what I sing reflects a lot of where I've traveled. Not so much, it's the other way around. It's not so much that I travel to the places I'm studying as that I study the places I've traveled to. So I do a lot of music from the Balkans. I do a lot of music from French Canada, Quebec, and Acadie, also French Ontario. I play, traditional style spoons. But I also started, after I'd done a lot of work and postdoc work with Sephardic music, I started working with the hidden Jews of Portugal to find out if they had kept any old traditions. And to do that, I had to find out what the traditions were in the areas where they lived, because otherwise I couldn't say whether they sang anything different from everybody else. And one of the most interesting instruments that I learned about was this square drum. It's called the square drum because it's square. This is the typical size one they play in a lot of Portugal, but in the Middle Ages, where you first see it in iconography, it's much smaller. It's kind of more this size. And in fact, my travel square drums are the smaller size. This is, one of the things that sitting in my living room allows me to do is pick up the bigger ones. And they're sewn together. The skins are actually, let me find it. I don't know if you can see it, but the skins are actually sewn together under the decorative ribbon. It may not have a ribbon. Sometimes there's things inside, as in this one. Sometimes there's not. And in the old days, it was called a doof. It's still called a doof in Portugal, not so much in Spain. And it's from the Arabic, al doof, or Hebrew, hatof. It's the same thing. So this is an odd song from the north of Portugal, northeast, and it's an area where a lot of hidden Jews during the Inquisition used to live. Not very many hidden Jews live right in this area anymore, but they live not very far away in the larger town of Bragança. But it's not particularly a Jewish song. I recorded it in one of the villages, and it's about the drum itself. It says, "Long live the person who plays this pandeiro quadrado, the square drum." And then it has all kinds of verses that, in English we call zipper verses. You can zip them in or zip them out. So it might say, "This is not my drum, it belongs to Maria, and she loaned it to me for the pilgrimage." Or, "This is my drum, and it has 4 corners, and it's made of skin of a sheep that only yesterday was happily, pasturing in the grass." Or, "This is my drum, and it has 4 corners, and you don't play it just with your hand, you play it with a golden ring that my beloved gave me," and it kind of goes on and on like that. So I'll just do a couple. And you only play it in between verses, which is another odd thing, really only in this area that I know of. Vivo canto co pandeiro, viva Ekaterina mão, viva canto co pandeiro, viva Ekaterina mão, viva caia de lugrari, menino seu coração. Este pandeiro que eu toco é feito de pelo velha, ontem comeu na carpaça, hoje toca com rebenta. Este pandeiro que eu toco não é meu que de Maria. Este pandeiro que eu toco não é meu que de Maria, que me deu para tocar no dia de romaria. Pandeiro de 4 esquinas, não se toca com a mão, toca-se com anel de ouro, prenda do meu coração. And usually at the same time, somebody else will be playing a triangle, an old-fashioned blacksmith, heavy blacksmith. possibly rubbing two conch shells, viera shells, the kind that you make coquille Saint-Jacques from together. So these are all village traditions, and I try and perform them as close as I can to the way they were done in the village.
Thank you so much,
That
Judith.
was beautiful. That was beautiful. I loved it. Both the songs and the stories. I absolutely loved it. Thank you so much for sharing these traditions with us.
Well, thank you guys for inviting me. It's a beautiful series, and I've really enjoyed watching and listening to all these other artists.
So a huge thank you to Professor Judith Cohen, and thank you to all our viewers. Please stay with us. We'd also like to mention that if you are joining us on Facebook, Facebook sometimes generates auto captions, which are fantastic for accessibility if you are listening to the conversation in English, but sometimes if there's a song in a different language, you might get some interesting captions underneath. So we just wanted to let you know that there is an option for turning your captions off on the viewers end if you're joining us on Facebook. So with that, we will move on to our next artist, who is Eshe. Based out of Hamilton, is the owner of Mahasti, the Bellydance Emporium. Eshe began dancing in 2002 and has performed in America, Japan, South Korea, Australia, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Turkey, where legendary artist Sima Yildiz gifted her the last name Yildiz, meaning star. She's appeared in Vogue and Harper's Bazaar, as well as several TV and radio programs. She opened Mahasti in 2016 and in the same year took second prize in Star Belly Dancer Canada's troupe category. In 2019, she won Established Artist in the Hamilton Arts Awards Dance Performing Arts category. These days, she's shifted all of her offerings online, including classes, workshops, her online showcase Glitter, as well as the Hamilton International Belly Dance Competition. Here's Eshe. thank you so much for that beautiful performance, Eshe. Thank you so, so much. And we would love to hear about your journey into dance in particular, and also specifically belly dance. Could you share a little bit of that story with us?
Yeah, I started dance and belly dance at the same time. So I was living in Tokyo, and I didn't have very much money, and I saw an advertisement for a free belly dance class in a magazine. Um, and I went and tried it, and I loved it. I had always wanted to dance. My grandparents, when they immigrated to Canada, they actually brought their dance with them. They're Scottish. So I grew up loving dance and wanting to dance, but I never took a lesson until I was an adult.
And tell us a little bit. I know you've trained in different styles of belly dance and just dance in general. So tell us a little bit about your journey into Turkish style belly dance, as well as Turkish Roman. How did that avenue open up for you?
I was living in Tokyo at the time, and there's actually a really long connection to Turkish belly dance in Tokyo. It's the first restaurant I actually danced in, and all the restaurants I danced in were Turkish restaurants in Japan. My teacher, Michelle, worked in Turkey for a long time, and she brought over Sami Yildiz, and a lot of Turkish instructors. And also she taught us about Turkish belly dancing, but the first time I met Sema, I just cried my eyes out, and I knew I had to continue to study with her. So in 2010 was my first time. I went to Turkey for about 5 weeks and studied every day with, almost every day with Reyhan Tuzuz, studying Turkish Roman. I also studied with Tule Karaka's niece, Zinner, legendary, obviously, Sami Yildiz, and also Princess Banu. And then Sema also brought out of retirement some of her friends from the 80s, which was really fun to study with. So, and I've been back to study again with Reyhan in person, as well as Islam, who's a really amazing Turkish Oriental dancer. And I've also studied with a lot of Americans who really love this style, like Ruby Bay and Elizabeth Strong. It's a really, really beautiful but vulnerable dance. So it's important that we learn from people that are of the culture, obviously, but also that are honoring the culture too.
So I personally absolutely love everything you do out of your studio, Mahasi, and you have this exciting competition coming up. So tell us a little bit about that and how our viewers can follow your work and the work done by your entire team at your beautiful studio.
So we actually had a circle time with Jelena. I was cast in her show last year for Wizard of Oz, and she met up with us and encouraged us to think of how we could be of service to others. So when I saw a lot of dancers, understandably, were canceling competitions or having their competitions canceled, and I knew before we did the first phase of the competition online and then the second phase in person, but I thought for this year we could do the entire thing online, and then I could be of service to people, give those dancers who've been working on their skills a place to shine and to get feedback and critique, because that's how we grow as artists. And same for Glitter Online. I moved the show online, and to be honest, I didn't know what the feedback would be, but we're hearing from so many people, same as Global Rhythms. It's really amazing to be able to connect with our community, and people who felt like they maybe physically couldn't get to shows are now being able to get to shows. Same for online classes. Some of my students and some of my teachers from 10 years ago or more are connecting with me in a really special way. So although this is really challenging, I'm seeing a lot of beautiful happenings all over the place.
Wonderful. And this is otherwise the third year of the competition, yes? The Hamilton
Fourth.
International fourth
Fourth.
year. Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic. Fantastic. Well, congratulations on this amazing shift to the online medium, I guess. I think it's much needed, and I think you're definitely at the forefront of engaging in the online media during this social distancing time. So I think we can say that it's kind of socially coming together in a different sort of way. So thank you. And can you tell us a little bit about the second piece you're doing?
Yes. So the second piece you're about to see, I'm going to do some Turkish veil on Yüksek Tepele, which is a really beautiful song about homesickness. And if I had wings, I would fly to you. Or if I had a sail, I would sail to you. And then I'm going to do some Turkish Oriental, some Turkish belly dancing on the R Roman, Agir, the heavy Roman. And as well, I'm going to finish off with a little drum solo, very much inspired by Turkish belly dancers of the past, like Nezrin and Tule Karaka. So I hope you enjoy it.
This sounds very, very exciting. Absolutely every bit looking forward to it. And I have one last burning question I've always wondered about. And that is, tell me about the name Mahasti, the name of your dance studio. Tell me a little bit about the name. It's such an interesting and beautiful name.
So Mahasti means you are a moon. And it's actually funny, we get a lot of Mahasti singer fans who pop on to our Instagram every once in a while. But when I was learning in Tokyo, we always learned on the moon cycle. So thinking of the new moon is when you're most creative, and it's a chance to align yourself with nature and just follow the flow that nature has. And the idea too that every single month or every new moon, you have a new opportunity to create what you want. The idea as well for me in You Are a Moon is that you're special and unique, and there's only one of you, and if you don't dance your dance, no one else can. So we need your voice, we need you to be a moon, and we need you to sparkle and shine. And my landlord, who's from Syria, also really, really loves it, so that's an added bonus.
Once again, what another beautiful, inspirational story, and just so much beauty and so much joy to everything you do. And thank you so much for sharing this with us. And we look forward to this incredible second dance that you're doing. So thank you, and ladies and gentlemen, here's Eshe.